Jesus, boys, girls, in-betweeners, Red Gamer back again with another mix-up, and this time we are talking about Evolution 2018 and the death of Marvel. Now, before we get into that, let's talk about EVO and what it is. If you're new to the channel or just new to fighting games in general, Evolution Series is the premier tournament for the fighting game scene. It is our mecca, it is our Olympics. It takes place every year in Las Vegas, and it's a very prestigious event. It gets bigger and bigger every year. It gets more visually fantastic and splendical, to the point, the splendical word, where they rent out an entire, what is it, a stadium now? Something like, it's not, I mean, it's not a football stadium, but it's at least like it's a big ass fucking place. Let's put it that way. It's getting on the level of kind of like WWE events where we have like, you know, big digital displays and whatnot. It's kind of crazy. And this year, the lineup of games which are going to be played at Evolution was announced just a few days ago. And those games are as follows. We got Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, Smash Bros. Melee, Smash Bros. Wii U, Guilty Gear Revelator 2, Blaze Blue, the new version, Cross Tag Battle, and Injustice 2. Now, let's have a quick run through of each of these. So, we got Street Fighter V, which is not a surprise to anyone. Street Fighter is always the main event at EVO. It doesn't matter what year it is, it's always held on Sunday. The finals are always done as the last thing. It is the crescendo, it is the absolute highlight of the event. So the fact that Street Fighter V is not a surprise to anyone. Tekken 7, that's great, that's cool. I didn't get to see it last year. Hopefully I'll get to see it this year. Again, kind of not really a surprise there. That's the big entrance there for that series. Melee is I'm not a Smash Bros fan, as you know. There's no Smash Bros. There's a little bit. If you can dig around, you can find some Smash U on this channel, but you'll have to dig real hard because there's only a handful of episodes there. I'm not good at Smash. I don't like it that much. Like I said, I do own it, but I never really got into it. Like just like tilting to do moves and things like that just didn't really agree with me. So I've never really been a big advocate for the series. But that said, I always get a little bit upset when Smash is there, not because of the fact that Smash is there. I think Smash is a real fighting game, and I think it does deserve its chance to shine at EVO like any other fighting game does. I'm upset about the fact that each year takes up 2 slots. I really don't think that any series has a right to take up 2 slots. And the fact that, you know, for a few years running now, we've had both Melee and Smash Wii U at Evolution is, pick one. Alright, I don't care about if you're an advocate for Smash and you were saying like, oh, they play so differently, they're 2 completely different audiences, I don't give a shit. Pick one, okay? We can do it for every other game, every other series. You know, even Street Fighter, you know, people have left for the most part Street Fighter 3 and moved on to Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. Every other series, you know, we move on to the new version, but for some reason, Smash is just that series where everyone champions Melee as just the holy grail of Smash, and then if you want to play, you know, Smash U or whatever else, then, you know, that's fine. So, I don't agree with that. Feel free to hate me in the comments. I don't give a shit. Moving on from there, we got Guilty Gear Revelator, which is fucking great. We got Blaze Blue, Cross Tag Battle. So that's 3 Arxis games, as a lot of people have pointed out in EVO, which is kind of crazy. And I played a little bit of Guilty Gear. It looks fantastic. I could never wrap my head around it. That's my fault. That's my limitations as a player. Blaze Blue, I've never touched in my entire life, so I have no idea about that one. It's fun to watch. I watched the finals last year. That was neat. And lastly, we have Injustice 2, which I'm a little bit on. I think that's more kind of put in there as, you know, a hat tip to NetherRealm. It's like, oh, okay, you know, it's a NetherRealm game. We're gonna have one of them in here this year, and it just happens to be Injustice 2. Injustice 2 is a game it is super fun to play. I do love playing Injustice 2. Don't get me wrong. I really do enjoy it, and I wish I could keep playing it on the channel. The problem is that everyone else kind of just doesn't want to watch it. It doesn't matter whether it's my channel or anywhere else. The fact of the matter is that it's just not that an exciting game to watch. As graphically splendorous as it is, the character models look great, the stages look great, the animations are fantastic. It's just the art direction of that game is just the way that fights play out is just not that exciting to watch. Again, fight me in the comments, don't care. It's just the fact of the matter. The numbers speak for themselves when you're looking at streams. So that's kind of where I stand on Injustice 2. I think that it was kind of a mercy fuck, if you will, for that game getting in there. So that's kind of the breakdown of the games. So the obvious thing now is that there's no Marvel. There's no Marvel 3, there's no Marvel Infinite, there's no fucking Marvel, which is a real first for Evo. It's, you know, Marvel has always been, at least up until Infinite, which we'll get into shortly, a game which was a fantastic spectator sport. You did not have to understand the first thing about Marvel 3 to be able to watch a Marvel match and go, holy shit, this looks like a lot of fun. It was crazy, and I still don't know how to play Marvel 3 properly. I play it like shit if you've ever seen any of my videos at all. And yet it is super fun to watch, and that's kind of where we get into the fact that like Infinite's been dropped it's such a huge blow to Capcom. It really is. This is really, you know, Mr. Wizard is the man who basically gets the final say on things that happen in EVO, and this is basically him just waving his dick in Capcom's face saying, I don't give a shit. And this is not the first time it's happened. It's happened with Street Fighter Cross Tekken as well, but even Street Fighter Cross Tekken made it to EVO twice. Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a game that before Infinite came out, it was the game that everyone loved to hate. It was the stick that people loved to beat Capcom with, just to beat them over the head and say, remember how you made this game, which everyone fucking hated. And even that game made it to EVO 2 years running. It made that, for the first year it was there as a tag team event, so there was 2 players on each team controlling one character. Second year, it kind of scraped in by the skin of its teeth because of the 2013 patch, which altered the game in a lot of fundamental ways and was designed to try and eliminate a lot of the problems like timeouts, things like that. It didn't really. It made it better, but it did not eliminate those problems, and as a result it was dropped. But even that made it to EVO twice, which is what's so shocking about this, is that Marvel Infinite has not even been out for 6 months, and it's been dropped. This is the final. This is what's going to kill Marvel. Essentially, that's the title of the video. Is like this one event. Up until this point, it was floundering, it was struggling, but this will be the thing that kills Marvel. Mark my words, because it's how do you come back from this? How do you come back from such a stiff rebuke from the FGC saying, no, we do not want your game. We don't even want to try it. We don't want to risk having low numbers in our viewership, low entrance, things like that. We don't want to just take that risk. We are prepared to just say fuck it and have other games there, or just have empty slots or whatever, as opposed to running a game. It's a real sad thing. But before we get into why it's sad, let's talk about why it was dropped. So Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was fighting a uphill battle shortly after release. Before it even was released, this game had big problems. And the first one was that it had a terrible roster. Let's just get that out of the way. It had a very limited roster. People pointed out that at launch, this game had half the amount of characters that Ultimate Marvel 3 had at launch. So, and when you can take into account the fact that Ultimate Marvel 3 still wasn't really that big a boost on top of the original Marvel 3, it was just made very clear from the beginning that this was a game that was designed to be rounded out with DLC later on, and we're giving you the bare minimum at start. And on top of that, having this roster, aside from the fact that it didn't have a lot of fan-favorite characters in there, characters like Wesker, speaking for myself personally at least, it also had no mutants. And this was like a very thinly veiled problem that the game had, because it was, and that's on 2 counts really. The first one is that there was no mutants because obviously Marvel went into this very heavily handed. Like, we don't need documents proving this. It's pretty obvious just using a little bit of common sense. They come in here and said, we want to promote the shit out of Black Panther, which is coming out at the start of next year, and we want to promote the shit out of Avengers Infinity War, which is coming out next year as well. So you're going to have those characters and nothing else. And as an extension of that, it came at a time where Marvel was really trying to very heavily distance themselves from the X-Men, because, as you know, without going into this too much, because we talked about this in other podcasts, or videos if you will, but Fox, 20th Century Fox owns the cinematic rights to mutants and anything else in the category of mutants, whatever they've kind of decided in their own contract negotiations. So, as a result, because the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was doing so well for Marvel over the years, and they obviously really want to get those rights back. They sold off those rights a long time ago when comic book movies weren't really a big thing. The MCU hadn't even started. They haven't even released the Iron Man yet. It was the first X-Men movie. They sold these rights way back. I mean, around the turn of the century, around 2000 or so. I'd have to check specifically. Point being, is that there's been a rolling contract since then. There's obviously a clause in that contract which says as long as Fox keeps making X amount of X-Men movies in X amount of time, they get to retain the rights. Obviously, they keep paying for them, but they get to retain the rights. That Marvel can't just have them back. And as a result of that, Marvel doesn't want to help out Fox. They want those rights back. They're going to try and starve Fox of attention to the point where they'll get those rights back. Now, later on, there was talks about Marvel buying Fox's cinematic division and whatnot, which seemed to have stalled a little bit because of legal things that we're not going to go into. But at the time, they were just really trying to force mutants out of everything. So even in like their own comic books, the X-Men were really put on the back burner as a huge thing. Like X-Men were just really forced out of the spotlight completely, and Inhumans were the new shit. At that time, Marvel was pushing the shit out of Inhumans, which basically, if you know what Inhumans are, or if you don't know what they are, they're basically mutants but slightly different. They are hated and feared by mankind. They're a big unknown. Anyone can become an Inhuman, but you have to walk through this fart gas called Terrigen Mist rather than actually just becoming a random Inhuman. That's really the only difference. And so as a result, long story short, they said no mutants in this game. And as you fucking know, at this point, everyone loves the mutants. Everyone wants Wolverine and Cyclops and Gambit and Phoenix and all that shit. So that really, really hurt the game as well. The game was clearly rushed. It had about 9 months, so again, I'd have to check, but if memory serves, around 9 months from announcement to release. And like we said, it was pushed out to try and meet these cinematic demands. It had an awful aesthetic, which made the game look very dull and ugly. It had a thing called chromatic aberration, which, if you know what that means, it basically means you get that fuzzy kind of colored effect around things where basically it's a thing that's a little bit in vogue at the moment, where you take an image and you break it down into its RGB components and fuzz it up slightly. It's a little bit hard to describe, but you'll know it when you see it, trust me. And also it had like the very, quote-unquote realistic models, so they moved very heavily away from the comic book inspired aesthetic of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and went with these, again, realistic models, which, as we all know, was a terrible decision when you look at some of the characters' faces. They did not translate well to this new art style at all. And a lot of that was because they ported over assets from Marvel 3. They ported over not just character models, they ported over animations, things like that. It was just a game which was very rushed and bland all around as a result of this art style choice and the choices which put them in that position to begin with. As a result of this, the game was visually much less interesting to watch than its predecessors, and that was not just because of the art design, but also because of the fact that there was 2 characters instead of 3, there was no assists, and the biggest thing, there was no comeback mechanic. X Factor was derided. It was as loved as much as it was hated by a lot of the community. People hated it because it allowed you to steal a game that you had no right being able to steal, but on the other hand, it was an incredibly exciting thing to watch those X Factor comebacks happen. And without just those kind of elements, just having it as a raw 2-on-2 game just wasn't that much fun to watch in the current landscape of fighting games. And lastly, Capcom was very silent. Capcom were very, very quiet about this game, which was the strangest thing. A lot of companies, Bungie Activision being a very good example, get called out by the community a lot for not being transparent, for not engaging with them. But even Bungie Activision will turn around and release a public statement saying, oh, we recognize that these problems, problems that the game has, and we will work to correct them, blah, 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 blah. Capcom did none of that. Capcom was just dead silent. The only real community engagement Capcom had was when they released DLC or they announced the December patch, which went a lot to fixing balancing issues regarding the Reality Stone, certain characters like Dante and things like that. So it really felt like even Capcom themselves just didn't want anything to do with the game, which again, it just did not help at all, period. Terrible decision. So I want to talk about why this is a very bad thing for the FGC overall. Now, full disclosure before we go in, I like Infinite. I think Infinite is a huge amount of fun to play. It's got the same problem that Injustice has, where even if it's not an exciting game to watch, it's a lot of fun to play. It really is good. It just feels very satisfying, very kinetic to play. It's great. If you haven't had a chance to try it, well, you're probably too fucking late now, but you should have done that when it came out. But Infinite came out at a time when Capcom was still on very shaky ground, essentially. Street Fighter V only had barely managed to ship 2 million units at the time of Infinite's release. And fighting games haven't really hit the zeitgeist, the popular culture yet, like MOBAs and Battle Royale style games, things like that. You know, you go to the YouTube trending tab, you'll see all kinds of shit like, you know, Minecraft, Roblox. You will see some occasional things of MOBAs, but mostly you'll see Battle Royale style games. You'll see the PUBG, you'll see things like Fortnite and whatnot. You never see anything to do with fighting games unless it was that one time that Good Morning Mythical did a thing for Street Fighter Season 3's release. But that's it. So, you know, they haven't really hit on that cultural touchstone point yet. So they need every bit of support that they can get, because this really leads into my next point, that people think this is a victory, essentially. The haters of Infinite really feel like this is a victory, where they have shown Capcom that you gotta try fucking harder next time. You gotta try and make us happier. You can't put this shit out. We won't support it. You gotta go back to the drawing board, make Marvel vs. Capcom 4 and do it right. And the answer to that is that they're probably not going to do that. They're probably just going to go, okay, well, we obviously can't make a game that's profitable. Street Fighter V has still not reached sales expectations. The fact that it only barely crossed 2 million recently, they were expecting to sell 2 million in the first year, not the third. So it's even that game has not reached their expectations. So Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite only sold 1 million units in the 6 months that it came out. So they're probably just going to turn around and say, we need to start working on Monster Hunter DLC. We need to start working on maybe on that Devil May Cry reboot that we keep flirting with. Things like that. They're not going to go back to Marvel. They're just going to say, you know, we're going to put that on the back burner now. We're going to Mass Effect Andromeda that shit. We're just going to put that away, stick it in the cupboard, and maybe in 5-10 years we'll revisit it. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. They're not going to turn around and make another one, guys. This is not a victory for us. This is a loss. If you wanted a true sequel to Marvel 3, you should have supported this game. That's the long and the short of it. So that's really what disappoints me the most, is that this is a case of the FGC cutting off its nose to spite its face. And people don't see that now, but they will see it in the future, trust me. Alright, to wrap things up, let's talk about the future, where we go from here. Dragon Ball FighterZ was used as the stick to beat Capcom with in terms of this. It was announced not long after the announcement of Infinite. It looked far, far better, and it is, in a lot of regards, a better game. Not in all regards, but in many regards, it is a better game. And it may fill the void that Marvel has left, it may not. It's much too early to tell whether Dragon Ball FighterZ has that kind of long-term appeal. But regardless of what you think of Infinite, whether you loved it, whether you hated it, whether you think it deserved this or not, I believe that the game deserved better than to be killed off 6 months into its life. If people had done this with Street Fighter V, because remember, Street Fighter V released in a similar state. It was very much an unfinished game. It was a game that was derided for its art style. It didn't look as good as its predecessors, but it was given a chance to recover from that. You know, it got the story mode later on. It got the extra characters to round out what was a very small roster. And you know, with Season 3, we've finally seen what Street Fighter V should have been when it launched. It wasn't, obviously, but it's a much better game than it was when it came out. But this is not going to happen with Infinite now. Infinite's going to get dropped like a stone. It's not going to get a Season 2. It's going to just be put out to die. And that's it. And that's, like I said, that's a shame. I would have loved to have seen this game given a chance to come back and redeem itself. But unfortunately, it's not. And I think perhaps most worrying of all is that people have been concerned of where the FGC is going in terms of esports, that it's going to be much more of a business than the grassroots events that it's been so far. That, you know, when esports become even bigger, and maybe when we do hit that zeitgeist, that it's going to be all about the money. And if you're worried about that, then you should be worried about this, because this marks a turning point for the FGC, where the organizers of EVO and Mr. Wizard himself have clearly chosen games for the 2018 lineup that have been decided by viewer numbers and not their quality or their future prospects. So that's concerning as well. So that's food for thought, guys. Have a think about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There's not much really else to say on this one. I'm disappointed. I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to hear whether you think I'm wrong, whether you think that Capcom did deserve this, whether they deserve a bloody nose, whether you think they should fail, whether you think Capcom should go bankrupt and they should have to sell off all their IPs. I don't know. Let me know. Subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be more videos like this in future. And in the meantime, kisses, hugs, belly rubs. I will see all of you very soon.